Hello and welcome back to Marine for TCG. My name is Joe. Drink of the day is a pint of water. And in this video, I'm going to be doing a quick roundup of what cards you can be buying now if you're planning on building the new leaders coming out of OP14. This is not going to be addressing any older leaders, so if there are cards in OP14 that make your favourite older leader better, this video is not going to be addressing cards you can buy for those. This is just mainly going to be focusing on the 7 new leaders coming out in OP14. And as I'm a Western player, we're not going to be getting EBO3 for another month. So we're not going to be talking about vivi in this video, for example. And we're not going to be talking about other decks that get buffed by EBO3. I'll have another video for that nearer the time. This is already far enough in advance. So starting off with Red Law, I think there are 2 main ones that you can look at buying now. Kid Killer has had a recent reprint in the Learn Together starter deck. And there's actually the non-holo print, which I assume has its own number. Yeah, here you are. There's none of these available in the UK. Let me turn that filter off. That's probably a good idea for a video like this. And yeah, you can get this for around £1 to £2 in the EU. And the regular version is around the same. So personally, I'd grab the holo version. It's from EBO1. It's a classic. Can't beat the original print. And it is holo, so it looks a bit nicer than the one from the Learn Together starter deck. But we have just had a reprint of this. He's not very good at the minute. But in the lore deck, Kid Killer does... You sort of see it in most lists, at least a couple copies. It's a decent little card. So I think picking yourself up a couple of these if you plan on playing lore could be pretty wise. And the other card that I think is worth looking at is the 3-cost Zorro. This is a nice early play, because in the early game, you want to play one of your small guys, and then playing that into a Zorro can be alright. You get the rush with Zorro, you get to swap the 5 over to your 1-cost, attack with that. And if your opponent doesn't have a very good start, well, they might not be able to deal with this rush Zorro, because they might have to focus on dealing with your 1-cost. Lest they lose both. So then you can transfer something else's power, maybe the extra X power, to this Zorro and swing like 7. It seems fairly popular as like a different option to the new 4-cost Kid in those early turns in Red Law. And it can also just be a closer. 3-5 rush, you can't go wrong with that. I do think this at £1 each is pretty reasonable. I'm pretty sure this was higher when Rayleigh was quite popular. The chart on Card Market doesn't go back terribly far. Another one on the American TCG Player website does a lot better with that. But this also has another print from the original set. However, this tends to be a bit more expensive. Yeah, you're looking around £2 for the original print. And around £1.50 for this print from the starter deck. And I personally prefer this one, but pick up whichever you like. Will you need 4? Maybe. You could consider this a 4 of in lore. Although deck lists are very much still up in the air at the moment. I think all of the other older cards you would want for a Red Law deck are going to maintain very little value. Things like the Machino, things like the Promo Beppo. However, if you're an alt-art enjoyer, maybe you could look at getting your alt-arts of them sooner than later. In terms of cards for Green Mihawk, again, a lot of the cards that Mihawk likes to play, at least that I was playing in my early list, are new cards from OP14. However, one that you could look to maybe grab is the Secret Bonnie. I think generally a secret rare for like £6 or £7 is pretty reasonable. I'd definitely be buying at this price, and I have actually bought my playset of Bonnies very, very recently. They're still in the mail. It's so recent, in fact. This card, seeing early play in Mihawk, will it continue to see play in Mihawk? I'm not sure, but it's very, very value efficient, and if not in Mihawk, you can play this in Green Bonnie, which there's also murmurings of Green Bonnie being a lot more promising this format, which is quite exciting to see. Also in Mihawk, DMG, this is slowly creeping up. I mean, you can see from the chart here, we're up to around 133 on the daily trending, 124 7 days. There's still a bunch of these available very, very cheaply in Europe. If you are in the UK, it becomes a bit more difficult. But generally, a lot of these guys, they just have 1 copy. So the postage situation is shit. So finding people with more than one of these can be a bit tricky. If you can pick these up off your locals for very, very cheap, I would definitely get your playset of DMG. You probably won't need a playset for Mihawk, but it's worth having just in case. And I think the most important one for me in Mihawk specifically is the Lore Beppo. Lore Beppo looks to be stable in Mihawk, at least at this early stage of the format. You see a lot of people playing this. It's very powerful into Ace for actually being able to deal with those Whitebeards efficiently. And also just buffing yourself to 7k. It's a really good card, and it's searchable off that / Perona searcher. And you can still pick these up for £2-3, £2-3. I will say there's actually a hell of a lot in the UK and far less in Europe, which is very backwards. Usually it's the other way around, but I would strongly advise you to get your playset of Lord Beppos if you can pick them up at this sort of £2 price tag, because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, the red Uta that's very popular in Ace and Roger, but especially in Ace, that card I think was up to like £6 last time I looked. You never know. Final one that I suppose I should mention, but I didn't have pulled up, is Perona. She's already quite expensive because of Green Zorro. Will Green Zorro be good next set? Ooh, who knows? Too early to say. I'd imagine he'll be decent at least, but this looks to be very promising in Mihawk as well, and I don't believe we're due any reprints of this. So if you are planning on playing Mihawk or Green Zorro, I suppose, maybe look at getting your Peronas, although this price, it's not cheap. Like, £5 is not too bad. It's not too bad for an SR. But it's not cheap either. But yeah, you probably will want these in your Mihawk deck. So it is what it is. There's also some other cards that, if you're an alt-art fiend, you might be looking for. Trichiliacosm is one that I think the ship has already sailed on a little bit. Yeah, this was a £1 alt for a long time. I think I might have actually mentioned this in one of these sort of card market type videos a long time ago as being potential for the future. Maybe I'm gaslighting myself into believing that though. But regardless, this has absolutely shot up. It's now sort of about £5 is your cheapest ones, and a lot of these are going for 7 or 8, which ain't great. So I think the boat has been missed on this one. Probably won't rise too much from here. We saw Paradise Waterfall reach around 10, I think. But, you know, if you want to buy your alt-art Trichiliacosms, you can still get them for around £7. It's not the end of the world. I think that's around it for Mihawk. Again, most of the support for him is stuff from the new set. But I think specifically the DMG, the Perona, and especially that Lord Beppo are ones to potentially pick up in advance if you can. Now moving on to Jinbei, and we're starting off with quite possibly the most hideous One Piece card ever created. I love it. This art is terrible looking. However, this seems pretty good in Jinbei. I really enjoyed it when I was playing him, and it starts being a 4K body that you can just put one leader effect on to swing 6 into Ace. And when attacking is no joke either. It's not that bad. This Arlong has absolutely skyrocketed since I put out my my Jinbei video. Not that I'm saying that I caused that, but in that time frame it has shot up massively. And the cheapest you can get these now is around £10 a copy. I don't know if I'd bother at this point. Like, that's kind of expensive for a card that you've got to remember this is rotating in April. I don't know if I'd be willing to pay £40 for a playset of like an okay card in Jinbei that's rotating in April personally. But if you are, this may well rise more from between now and then. There's a very limited number of these because the original print, this promo print, is from like Sealed Battle Volume 1, which is just forever ago, way before I started playing. And the live action file has been out of print for a long time. So, I don't know. Should you pick this up? It's hard to say at this price, but if you're a Jinbei diehard, then maybe you could consider buying 4 off the same seller. Although it kind of sucks, I'm not going to lie. Red Rock is one I'd definitely grab yourself a few copies of for either Jinbei or Boa Hancock. Both of those decks can make pretty good use of this. Getting rid of Aces, Whitebeards, but there's other things as well now. All the big green top end in Mihawk is pretty nice to get rid of with Red Rock. Ophi has his purple Dofi, if there's no Virgo on the board, of course. And into Black Croc, you can actually remove the Black Croc with Red Rock. There's not many ways to get rid of that guy, but Red Rock is one of the more reliable ones. This got reprinted a while back in PRB1. Hasn't been reprinted since then. What is the price on the PRB1 version? You can still pick some of these up for around £1 to £2. But this is slowly creeping up. Do remember this rotates in April. However, if you plan on playing blue decks between now and then, I'd strongly think about picking up at least a couple copies if you still don't have them. Though I suspect you do. And in a similar vein, Charlotte Pudding, she was just reprinted in PRBO2. She's currently very cheap. This was also a tournament promo recently-ish. This print, here you go. This one was from tournament volume, something. One of the tournament packs from your locals quite recently. And this at around about 50p to £1, I think is very good. This is not rotating in April, So if you don't have your puddings, I doubt we'll get another reprint anytime soon. So I would pick up a playset if you don't have them yet and intend on playing blue decks. I can see this scene play in both Jinbei and also in Boa. One more interesting card that has absolutely skyrocketed is this old ass promo lore. This guy was like 4 or 5 quid for ages. Even after getting a bit of hype last set with, what was it Blue Yellow Nami? I think Eggman did a Blue Yellow Nami build with this lore in it, and that got a little bit of a movement from that. I remember buying one a while back. I think that was why. But now that we have 2 new leaders coming out, and they're both Warlords themed, Arlong in the Jinbei deck can search for literally anything, including this lore. And in the Boa Hancock, you can't search for this because he's not a Warlord, frustratingly. So you can't grab him with Sengoku, but it does look to be another option. I'm personally more interested in trying this in Jinbei, because Boa also has access to the 5-cost Nami, who can do a similar thing, but also give a Don to your leader. And then the 9-cost Boa to just burn that final life when you get them to that. So I think this is personally more promising in Jinbei, especially searchable. Will it actually make the cut? I don't know at this point. It's too early to say, but people have been buying these like hotcakes. I don't think I'd be buying at this price, personally. I think 10 is about the most I'd be looking to pay for this, given that it is rotating in April. But just a nod that this is a card you could consider buying if you've got a lot of money, I guess. Final card for Jinbei, Perfume Femur. I've said about this one before, so we won't stop for long. This is going to be mandatory in Jinbei. It's going to be mandatory in Boa. You've got to have unblockable these days, especially one as good as this. The fact that Trigger draws a card, the fact it's searchable in both decks, off Grandma Gloriosa, Sengoku, and Arlong, is brilliant. And also has a really nice alt art if you're an alt art enjoyer. However, this one's already gone up quite high. It's around a £10 card now. So, you know, if you fancy just getting the cheap one, I wouldn't blame you, but I would get the cheap one. Because you never know, Jozu is from a similar set to this, and he's like 3 quid now. This Femur could easily be 2 quid in a few months once the set comes out. So if you can pick yours up for 2 pence, I don't know, personally I'd just pick up a couple of these. Moving on to Boa, and starting off with a couple of Boas. There's going to be, I think, a couple different builds of this Boa Hancock leader. There's going to be a build more focused on the triggers, the new yellow Kuja Pirates out of the new set, I think. But I think there will also be a build that goes down the Marigold plus 6-cost Boa route. Which one of those will be better, I personally haven't tested yet. But if you are a believer in the 6-cost Boa and the 5-cost Marigold build, this Boa from OP14 is a must-have in that build. It freezes a guy, it's a big body. If your opponent takes it out, they lose a life. It kind of ticks all the boxes, and you also get the bottom of 1 for fun. So if there's any chump blockers, or into decks like Jinbei that just play a lot of 1s, happy days. This hasn't had a reprint since OP7, outside of about 16,000 different alt arts. So if you are an alt art fiend, my god, you got to decide which one's the best. But if you are just after the base rarity, this is still available around £1. I would get these if you believe in that Marigold build, or if you just want to have availability of all of the cards to mess around with your Boa deck. I think this card's decent. It could well be a 4 in the deck. It's probably the better of the 2 Boas, especially as we're not getting the woman set for a while that you can play off of the Marigold. I think that sentence makes sense grammatically. Anyway, you know what I mean. This is cheap. I would get yourself a playset of these if you don't have them at the minute. Moving on to an even better Boa, I think, and this is one that has risen a little bit already. The Boa from the Dofi deck. This is going to be your best play on 4. I'm pretty convinced that you're just going to play this on 4 every game that you are on evens. It gives it onto your leader. It's a blocker. It's a vanilla stat line. And the fact that it is a blocker means you can force burn that life at some point. You don't have to just keep attacking with this. I think this is an absolute must in the deck, regardless of what kind of build you're on. It even increases your consistency by letting you look and stack that top 3, or just ship it out if it's all garbage. So if you are a Boa believer, I would strongly advise getting your playset of these before it rises even more, because you never know. These starter decks are a little bit old at this point. In terms of a couple of searchers, Grandma Gloriosa, probably not going to go very high. It's only an uncommon, but if you are buying maybe this OP07 card off someone, you could check, see if they've got any Gloriosas listed. You will probably want to place out of this in a lot of builds of Boa. It searches your Amazon Lilies and your Kuja Pirates, which is all of your Boas. The other ladies from Amazon Lily from the new set. And also the Perfume Femur, of course. Lilith is a searcher out of the brand new set OP13. This is going for absolutely nothing. This may well be good in Boa. There will be builds that don't play this, though. It only searches trigger cards, so cards like, for example, your blue Boas, like this one and this one, won't be playing Lilith. If you are on that Marigold package, I doubt you'll be playing Lilith. But if you are a fan of the more trigger-happy versions with more of the new yellow Amazon Lily cards, this Lilith could be a banger in that. And Sengoku is the final searcher that Boa could well end up playing. And this is probably the one that I would think about buying the most if you are going to look at getting your hands on a bunch of these, just because he's a little bit older. Not too old, only OP7. I couldn't see this going for more than like £1 because it doesn't look staple in Boa, but it does search all your Boas, it searches your femur, and it can search other Warlord tech cards. Like, for example, the 4-cost Law from SC17, who's also very, very cheap at the moment because of his reprint in PWO2, as well as the Yellow Secret Kuma. And I've not put Yellow Secret Kuma on this list because I don't think it's going to be mandatory in Boa, and I also think it's just a little overpriced still. I still think that card is going to come down between now and then. So personally, I'm not buying Kuma. Could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I'm sure I'll be wrong again. But I would be buying Sengoku if I didn't have them. And I actually have been buying Alt-Art Sengokus. It's risen a little bit since I bought them. I've paid around 3, I think. But if you are an Alt-Art fiend, the Alt-Art Sengoku is quite nice. Although he's getting a new SP, isn't he? Is that on here? That's not on here just yet. But there is a new SP of this Sengoku coming, which is pretty cool. Final Boa card is Boa. What a surprise. I'm not sure about this one. It doesn't work with all of your other triggers that you play out, guys, because it has 7,000 power. It doesn't play itself off trigger. It just goes a 4, which is fine. But if you are expecting a lot of green Zoro especially, or just any other deck that relies on their leader, maybe Blue Dofi came back, or I don't know, Black Moria. A bit weird time to be alive. But yeah, this Boa is good into niche decks and okay into pretty much any deck. The fact that you get to burn a life when it gets KO'd is obviously very helpful. I think this is a little overpriced at the price it is at the minute, £6. I'd probably be looking to pay more around 4 or 5 than sort of 6 or 7. But regardless, if you are a Boa believer, you may want to pick up probably just 2 of these. I can't see this being a playset. We've got like a lot of good cards in this deck, I think, at this point. And as I discussed before, the Law, and you can also play this in Jinbei. I think this is a very, very cheap card at the minute for a starter deck card because it's just had a reprint. If you don't have a playset of these, I'd probably just grab them, regardless of whether or not you end up playing it. You're going to have paid like a £1, right? It's just the postage you're paying. How cheap this card is. And it can be nice into early plays against Emu because sometimes they don't get 7 immediately. And also into Ace to bounce things like Marco can be pretty relevant. In terms of Purple Dofi, again, there's not too much. A lot of the leaders in this set have a lot of their support concentrated in this very set. The blue is sort of a bit outside of that because blue always has those universal tech cards. But Purple Dofi, I think has about 3. The Sugar Searcher is going to be staple in the deck. If you don't have your copies of these, pick them up. They're very cheap. They're probably going to stay cheap, but I would pick them up. The Akos Dofi is also very cheap. You can still pick these up 50p. Loads on here for 50p. Look at this. Absolutely tons of them. Yes, postage will kind of stink, but you don't want this to go to like £3-4 and then you're not so worried about the postage because the price of the card is a lot higher. So I do think buying these, even if you have to buy them at 50p plus postage each, it is what it is. This is going to be staple in the deck. This is a crazy, crazy card now. Now that he actually has some damn targets. And the alt-art of this, buy mine, 4 for 25 each. Yeah, I think this is going to go up a little bit more from where it is at the minute. And I also have a playset, so you can price a bit higher. But regardless, if you like the alt-art, this is quite a nice one, actually. I do like this alt-art. Not that I'm biased. Regardless, the regular version of this is dirt cheap. If you're planning on playing Dofi, just do yourself a favour, grab these now. And also Rosie. I'm not confident on how many of these you're going to actually play in the deck. I could see it being anywhere from 0 to 4, honestly. And a lot of it will come down to how many events you choose to put in your deck. Because we have so many good cards now in this Purple Don Quixote archetype that you don't need to crutch on events as much, but some of the events are really good and worth crutching on. So, I don't know, I could see this going either way. If you are a very heavy Dofi believer, you could probably pick up a playset of this guy. It's likely to see some play in the deck. I think I had 2 or 3 in my build in the video the other day. But around £1, £1.50 each. It's low tier for £1 each. Absolutely loads of them. If you're in the EU. If you're in the UK, you know how it is. It's always a little bit more in the UK, except that one card earlier. But regardless, I think this I think this Rosie at around £1.50 each, it's not too bad right now. Oh, and one more card. I don't think this will ever get expensive, but I guess this is the PRB02 foil print. But yeah, get yourself some slow beam swords. Just make sure you have these, so you're not scrambling for them later. They're worth nothing, but it's going to be important in the deck, I expect. Nearly through, and Moria, man, I don't think this deck's very good. But if you are a believer, the PRB02 Moria is actually quite cheap at the minute. It's around £1 or less. A lot of these, look at this, around £1 or less. It's not a bad price. These PRB02 cards, they're never going to get that cheap just because they were quite hard to pull. And this Moria does seem pretty good for Moria, right? It gives you another 4, which if you're playing the Pro from EBO3, which admittedly won't be out yet, but when it is, that can play another 2 as well. It helps you go wide. I don't know, man. I just don't think Moria is very good. But if you are a Moria believer, you're probably playing this, so you could grab your copies now. He can also play out all of the new Thriller Bark stuff from OP14, excuse me, which is pretty cool. Prona 2K, probably a good enough card to play. The effect is fine. Forcing your opponent to trash a card can actually be quite nice. You can even play this off a trigger. You're going to want in archetype 2K so that you don't whiff with your searches a lot. And having this as like a backup play, it's a solid card. This is Sin play, like Fringe play, and other non-Thriller Bark leaders in the past. So I would get yourself a playset of these while they're pretty cheap. And also, if you're an alt-art enjoyer, this Hogback, is here. Is he that good? I don't know, but the alt-art is actually quite nice. I like this one. I like this one a lot. And you can pick yourself up a couple of these for £2 each. It's not too bad. Overall, I don't really have a lot to talk about in Moria. I just think the deck's not very good. And also, a lot of its support is stuff from the new set, so we'll see. Next up, moving on to Black Croc, we have the Haute Couture Patchwork. And early thoughts is this seems pretty decent in Croc. It sort of increases your range. Sometimes you just need that -3, so you can get like the double freeze on 2 really important targets. And for example, if your opponent's playing like 10 costs, this can come in handy. Maybe like an ace deck, just to hit 2 things. Also, this can help you go even wider. For example, if your opponent, hey, has 2 Whitebeards and a Jozu, and you have 1 Croc on the board, you can attack with your Croc, maybe they'll block with the Whitebeard, then you can kill the Croc, put the -10 on the rested Whitebeard, and then use the Croc's on play when you resummon him to freeze the Jozu. Then from there, you play the Patchwork, -3 to the upright Whitebeard, and freeze the rested Whitebeard. Then you play a second Croc, and he can make it so that the upright Whitebeard, which now has a cost of 7, cannot attack. Sounds a bit convoluted, but in that way, with just one of these Couture Patchworks, you go from freezing a Jozu and a Whitebeard to a Jozu and 2 Whitebeards. One of the Whitebeards stays frozen tapped, one of them can't attack, and then the Jozu obviously can't attack. So it can sort of extend the game further. How good is that going to be into Ace? I don't know. I feel like Ace is going to be one of your more difficult matchups because of things like Red Rock especially. But even into other decks, this can just sort of extend the range of your freeze, right? Maybe your opponent plays a lot of 3 costs early game. You can just tap one of them with his -3, freeze it, get out a bit of early aggression into a deck like Jinbei, for example. And I think for this reason, it is a good pickup, especially while it's literally got no value. Vivi, I think, is another card that could be interesting in Croc. There's also a weird full art print. I have no idea what this is from. I think it's from like Welcome Pack 2 or something. I don't know. It was a weird product. My just didn't seem to get any of these. But regardless, this is a pretty cool print. And we do build trash very, very quickly with Crocodile, right? You're going to get to 10, like by turn probably 4. So this is just a 1/1/1k blocker, and that can be quite nice. And finally, Sabo, again, we build a lot of trash. If you are playing 2Ks that are outside of the Brokeworks archetype, this is probably the best one. It's just a 3/6 blocker. Dodges Mars, dodges Usahachi, dodges a whole bunch of things, really. So it's kind of nice. This one is still a little bit expensive because of Red Black Sabo being reasonably good at the minute. He's around sort of £5. Will this go up or down? Honestly, this will probably go down between now and OP14 if I had to guess, but with these PRBO2 cards, you never truly know, so, you know, there's the nod that this could well be good in Croc. And that really is it. Again, I've not mentioned a lot of cards that are dirt cheap and are going to stay dirt cheap. I think the Grandma Gloriosa will probably stay dirt cheap, and Haute Couture probably will too. But, you know, rares or above, I'll mention. Anything lower than a rare, you know, the price is never going to be too crazy. But either way, those are just a few cards that you can maybe get ahead of the curve on OP14 on. As OP13 looks very, very set in stone, and there's not really much changing for the next couple of months. So if you do want to get ahead of the game, maybe consider these. As for what I've been buying off of this list, I've bought the Secret Bonnies. I would definitely be buying Lawpos if I didn't have them. I bought the Arlongs very recently, the live-action Arlongs. I think that's about it. I did have a lot of these cards, I can't lie. I had a lot of them already. But I have topped up the Bonnies. I have topped up the Arlongs. Oh, and the 6-Os promo Law I did buy, but not for the prices that it is right now. I got mine a little bit cheaper, so do with that what you will. And if you're an American in the comments saying, this card's $50,000 in America, it's like, yeah, you have a ton of scalpers. It sucks. It sucks so bad. But either way, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.